Over the last several weeks, we've been talking about the powers of this world. We looked at the book of Ephesians to start it off, and how Paul talks about who Christ is, what he has done for us, how he reconciles uh, us to him, how we begin to grow in him, and how that begins to challenge and change our relationships with others. And then he gets to the final part of the book in chapter 6, and he's like, oh, and by the way, it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a war. And he says, put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. And he goes on to say, we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, human people that look and talk just like us, but rather our real wrestling is against the principalities. We'll talk about that at another time, and the powers of this world. And so we've been looking at the powers of this world, and the powers are really this. The powers are the assumptions that we make based on how we perceive the world. They are the ways that we just assume the world works, the ways that we have always gained power, authority, satisfaction, or whatever, and that we perceive others gaining power and authority. And so we function in that way. It's usually a subconscious thing. We don't give it a lot of thought. But because of that, it exerts power over us when we're not even considering it. And so today we're going to talk about pleasure, the power of pleasure. And just a reminder that pleasure and the ability we have to experience pleasure is a direct result of God's wonderful creation, including us, that we can experience these things, that we can go. And to think that what I have here in my cup was harvested by a farmer in Ethiopia, and laid out to dry, and these little buds were, sorry, I don't really remember exactly how coffee was made, but that it turned into this wonderful concoction of cold brew coffee, which I greatly enjoy. I drink about 2 of those each day, and I love it. It's not the only way to drink coffee. It's just the best way to drink coffee. And so food, drink, travel, experiences, all those things are pleasures that you and I enjoy, and they're a result of who God is and who he has made us to be and how we're made in his image, and we can experience that. But we're coming up on summertime as I'm recording this, and there will be people traveling, there will be people having experiences, there will be people doing different things, and because of our world and the way we're shaped today, and the instantaneous reality of social media, it will look a lot of times like other people are experiencing pleasures that maybe we're not experiencing. And 2 things can result from that. Number one, we can assume that their life is better than ours, and that can lead to covetousness, and that's another issue to address as well. But the other thing about that is we can assume that our life is not complete. And Jesus directly challenges that in a situation that is similar. In Luke chapter 12, there's a man who comes to him while Jesus is teaching. And he says, teacher, you need to tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. In other words, he is withholding something from me that will bring me gratification. It might have even helped him. He may have had bills to pay. He may have been in debt. I don't know what the circumstances are. We're not told. But he says, I need this for my life. And Jesus says, man, I'm not going to do that, because you don't know how your life will not be satisfied by possessions. And I'm going to read that to you in Luke 12. I had it pulled up here a minute ago and then put it down to look at something else. And it says, man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you? Then he said to them, watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. The assumption by this man was that if he got what he was after, then his life would be more complete or complete. And Jesus said, that's not how it works. And neither do our lives work that way as well. One of the other dangers of pleasures and seeking pleasures first is at the end, they can be bitter. You've had a bad day, a bad week, a bad whatever. And certainly at times we do need to engage and enjoy things just so that we can be thankful for what God has given us. But oftentimes pleasure is used as a crutch when we've had a difficult time. And instead of facing that difficult circumstance, we retreat into something that we think will bring us pleasure, like Netflix binging and watching, TV all day long, or shopping, or some other type of experience. And when we do that at the end, the experience in Proverbs 21:17 tells us at the end that it makes us poor. He says, whoever loves pleasure will become poor, and whoever loves wine and olive oil will never be rich. There may be a time you want to sit down and it's good for you to sit down and watch television for several hours. Maybe. There may be a time it's good to go shopping and get away and do some of the things that you need to do. But at the end of the day, if you're end of your video watching, guess what? The house is still going to need cleaning. You know, that credit card statement, and you log in online, it's still going to be there and it's not going to be what you expected it to be. And so in the end, we have to understand that if we feed pleasure first, and we let the assumption that it's going to bring us some type of joy lead us, then we are going to be controlled by a power, and we are not going to be paying attention to what's happening in our life. And so God has given us these pleasures. The danger is in assuming that they are going to bring us the joy and happiness that we're seeking in our life instead of trusting in Him, leaning into Him each and every day. God bless you, and I'll see you next time.